Everything shifts the moment the inner voice changes its direction. A single repeated thought, felt deeply, can move reality faster than years of effort. Something powerful begins when the mind stops doubting and starts declaring truth. A quiet transformation begins in places no one else can see. Deep within the mind, where thoughts are repeated, beliefs are formed, and identities are shaped, something extraordinary starts unfolding. Most people spend their lives trying to control the outside world, hoping circumstances will align, waiting for the right person, the right moment, the right sign. But the real power has never been outside. It has always been within the inner dialogue that runs on repeat every single day. The words spoken silently in the mind are not empty, they are instructions, they are blueprints. And when those instructions are repeated with feeling, they begin to reshape reality itself. This is not about effort, this is about alignment. This is about understanding that what is impressed within must eventually be expressed without. The idea is simple, but its impact is profound. Repeating a thought 3 times a day for 14 days may sound small, but consistency creates momentum. Each repetition sinks deeper into the subconscious, bypassing doubt, dissolving resistance, and planting a new belief. That belief then becomes the lens through which life is experienced. When the belief changes, perception changes. When perception changes, actions shift naturally. And when actions shift, outcomes follow effortlessly. This is how something that once felt distant begins to move closer, almost as if guided by an unseen force. It is not coincidence. It is alignment in motion. It is the result of inner consistency meeting outer reality. Marriage, for many, feels like something far away, something that requires searching, convincing, or waiting endlessly. But the truth is, it is not the distance that delays it. It is the internal contradiction. On one hand, there is desire. On the other, there is doubt. And these two cannot coexist without slowing everything down. The moment doubt is replaced with certainty, everything begins to accelerate. This is why repetition matters. It replaces uncertainty with clarity. It trains the mind to accept a new truth. And once the mind accepts it, the body feels it, the energy reflects it, and the world responds to it. This is where things begin to change. Not gradually, but noticeably. The practice itself is not complicated. 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and night, there is a phrase, a declaration, a truth to be repeated. But repetition alone is not enough. Feeling is the key. The words must not just be spoken, they must be experienced. They must carry emotion, conviction, and belief. It is the difference between saying something and knowing something. When repeated with feeling, the mind begins to accept it as reality. And once it feels real internally, it starts becoming visible externally. This is how something imagined becomes something experienced. This is how the unseen becomes seen. During these 14 days, something subtle begins to happen. Old patterns start fading. Thoughts that once created doubt lose their power. The need to question everything slowly disappears. In its place, a new sense of calm begins to rise. A quiet confidence takes over. It is not loud, not forced, not dramatic, but it is steady. And that steadiness is powerful. It creates a foundation that cannot easily be shaken. From this foundation, everything begins to align naturally. Conversations flow differently. Encounters feel more meaningful. Opportunities appear without being chased. This is not luck. This is the result of inner harmony. Each repetition acts like a reminder that the desired reality is not something to chase, but something to embody. With every repetition, the gap between where things are and where they are meant to be becomes smaller. It is as if reality is being pulled closer, step by step, thought by thought. The mind stops resisting and starts allowing. And in that allowing, things begin to move faster. What once felt delayed starts feeling inevitable. What once felt uncertain starts feeling guaranteed. This shift is not visible immediately, but it is undeniable once it takes hold. There is also a transformation in how situations are interpreted. Instead of seeing delays as rejection, they are seen as preparation. Instead of seeing silence as absence, it is seen as alignment in progress. This change in perspective removes emotional instability. It creates peace. And peace is one of the most attractive states a person can carry. It signals confidence, security, and readiness. It tells the world that everything is already in place, and when that signal is sent consistently, the world responds accordingly. It begins to reflect that same certainty back. The power of doing this 3 times daily lies in its rhythm. Morning sets the tone, afternoon reinforces it, and night seals it into the subconscious. This cycle ensures that the new belief is constantly active, constantly growing, constantly strengthening. There is no room for contradiction when repetition is consistent. The mind begins to accept it without resistance. And once accepted, it becomes natural. It becomes automatic. It becomes part of identity. This is where the real change happens, not in temporary motivation, but in lasting transformation. By the end of 14 days, something feels undeniably different. The need to search fades. The urge to overthink disappears. There is a sense of knowing that replaces all uncertainty. It is not based on evidence, but on inner conviction. And that conviction is powerful. It influences every interaction, every decision, every experience. It shapes reality in ways that logic cannot always explain. But it is real. It is consistent. And it is effective. This is what happens when the inner world is aligned with the desired outcome. Everything begins and ends with what is repeated internally. Thoughts are not random. They are creators. They shape emotions, influence actions, and determine outcomes. When directed intentionally, they become tools of transformation. When repeated consistently, they become forces of change. And when felt deeply, they become reality. This is not about forcing anything. It is about allowing something that is already meant to be. Marriage is not something that needs to be chased. It is something that moves closer when alignment is achieved. 14 days is not just a time frame. It is a bridge between doubt and belief, between waiting and knowing, between wanting and having. Crossing that bridge requires consistency, patience, and trust. But once crossed, everything on the other side feels different. It feels natural. It feels certain. It feels complete. And from that place, everything begins to flow effortlessly. No struggle, no confusion, no delay, just alignment in its purest form. The repetition continues, not as a task, but as a habit. Because once something proves its power, it becomes part of daily life. It becomes a way of thinking, a way of feeling, a way of being. And from that state, everything desired becomes easier to experience. Not because the world has changed, but because the inner world has transformed completely. And that transformation is what brings everything closer, faster, and more effortlessly than ever imagined. Repetition becomes powerful only when it carries emotion, not when it is empty and mechanical. Words spoken without feeling fade quickly, but words felt deeply begin to take root in the subconscious. Each time a thought is repeated with belief, it leaves an impression. That impression grows stronger with consistency. Slowly, it replaces older patterns that once created doubt. The mind starts accepting the new idea as truth instead of questioning it. This shift changes how everything is perceived. Situations begin to feel different without any visible reason. Reactions become calmer, more certain, more controlled. The inner world starts organizing itself in a new way. And once that inner organization is complete, the outer world follows. What once felt difficult starts becoming natural. This is how repetition with feeling transforms reality from within. Consistency is what turns a small action into a powerful force. Doing something once may inspire, but doing it repeatedly builds belief. Over 14 days, the mind begins to accept what is repeated as normal. It stops resisting and starts agreeing. This is where doubt begins to lose its strength. Each day adds another layer of certainty. Each repetition weakens the voice of uncertainty. Slowly, confidence replaces hesitation. The mind no longer argues with the new belief. It begins to support it instead. This creates a stable inner foundation. From that foundation, everything becomes easier. Decisions feel clearer, emotions feel steadier. The change may not be loud, but it is deep. And that depth is what makes it lasting. When there is conflict inside, progress feels slow and uncertain. One part desires something, while another part questions it. This creates resistance that delays everything. But when alignment is achieved, everything starts moving smoothly. The mind, emotions, and belief all point in the same direction. There is no inner argument, no second guessing. This unity creates a powerful energy. It removes friction and allows things to flow naturally. Marriage, or any desired outcome, begins to feel closer, not because it suddenly appears, but because the path becomes clear. There is no longer confusion about what is possible. Everything starts aligning step by step, and that alignment makes progress feel effortless. The mind cannot always distinguish between what is imagined and what is real when emotion is involved. When something is felt deeply, it begins to register as reality internally. This is where transformation begins. The more something is felt as real, the more natural it becomes. It stops feeling distant or impossible. Instead, it feels familiar and expected. This familiarity removes resistance. It allows the mind to accept it fully. And once accepted, it begins to show up externally. The outer world reflects what is already believed inside. This is why feeling matters more than logic. What is felt consistently becomes experienced eventually. It is a quiet process, but a powerful one. Desperation creates tension, and tension blocks flow. When something is chased with urgency, it often feels further away. But calm certainty creates space. It allows things to come naturally without force. This calmness is not passive, it is confident. It is the knowing that what is desired is already on its way. This state attracts rather than repels. People respond differently to calm energy. Situations unfold more smoothly. There is less resistance and more ease. Everything begins to align without struggle. This is the power of certainty. It does not need to prove anything. It simply knows, and that knowing changes everything. Daily repetition begins to shape identity in subtle ways. Thoughts influence how a person sees themselves, and self-perception influences behavior and experience. When a new thought is repeated consistently, it becomes part of identity. It is no longer something separate. It becomes natural. This shift changes how decisions are made. It changes how situations are approached. Everything begins to reflect this new identity. The outer world responds to how a person sees themselves internally. This is why identity is so important. It is the foundation of all experiences. Change the identity, and everything else follows. It is not immediate, but it is inevitable. Belief is the final step where everything becomes effortless. When something is truly believed, there is no more questioning. There is no need for constant reassurance. It feels natural, obvious, and certain. This is where manifestation becomes automatic. Actions align without force. Opportunities appear without being chased. Everything begins to flow in a natural rhythm. The process no longer feels like effort. It feels like reality unfolding as expected. This is the power of belief. It removes resistance completely. And once resistance is gone, nothing stands in the way. What was once desired becomes experienced without struggle.